What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this year's Halloween Spooktacular. I'm having a lot of fun talking about some scary Halloween themed movies with you guys. And last year I talked about 2002's Resident Evil. I wasn't a big fan of that movie. Now I'm going to be talking about its sequel, Resident Evil Apocalypse, which I have to admit something. And this is probably because Paul W.S. Anderson isn't directing the movie. I have a soft spot for this movie. It's a massive guilty pleasure. Resident Evil Apocalypse is one of those movies I can acknowledge how stupid it is. It's an atrocious movie. It is full of stupidity. It is so dumb. It is so poorly made, but yet anytime I watch it, this movie sets out to do exactly what it's supposed to, provide some popcorn entertainment. That is how I feel with Resident Evil Apocalypse, that I don't feel with the original Resident Evil movie. I actually rewatched the original Resident Evil to prepare for this movie because I know that there were certain plot points that carried over from Resident Evil to Apocalypse, and I hated the first one even more, so I was really excited to get to this one because this one is just the personification of just how goofy it is. You literally have people getting hit and they go spinning through the air. They go flying through the air. You have people shooting off guns where the recoil makes their bodies vibrate. You have really horrible acting in this movie, but at least it feels more like Resident Evil to me. There's at least zombies in this one. The first zombie doesn't pop up until 40 minutes into the first movie. The first zombie, there's a whole horde of zombies to begin this movie. As much as I don't think Mila Jovovich is a great actress or anything, it is actually kind of fun to watch her kick some ass in this movie with her gang of, I don't know if you want to call them people or characters. We'll just call them beings because this movie forgets how to write characters, that's for sure. But there's just certain elements about this movie. There's just certain elements about any movie that you can consider a guilty pleasure. Really just strike with you because I think for what it is with me is that it's just the nonstop action of this movie. It's really an all action, no plot type of movie. 10-year-old me would have loved this. Okay, when I was 10 years old, I was naive. I had no idea what the composition of a shot was. Like, if I had seen this when I was 10 years old, I would have told you that this was the coolest freaking action movie ever made when it's really choppily edited. I mean, just look at how bad some of this action is edited. And we're talking about the director who went on to be a second unit director for big movies like some of the James Bond movies, Casino Royale, Skyfall, Spectre, No Time to Die. And this was his directorial debut, and he clearly his editor went to the Paul W.S. Anderson School of Editing because this movie is atrociously edited. There is not one shot in this movie that lasts more than a fraction of a second. It is very nauseating. Your eyes are literally just going back and forth in every shot trying to figure out what the hell is even going on. Allows me to just shove food or popcorn into my face with this movie and have a grand old time. Is the nonstop zombie killing action. Nemesis, I think, is actually pretty cool in this movie. He actually looks like his video game counterpart, and they went out of their way to have a prosthetic costume for him. That's an actual costume. That thing weighs about 60 pounds for the actor that played Nemesis in this movie, and he could only wear it for 15 minutes at a time because it was so hot. So they actually went the extra mile. Instead of just having Nemesis being a CGI character, they actually came up with a costume that looked fairly video game accurate. Had somebody in that costume with prosthetic makeup. It actually looked pretty good. The backstory of Nemesis is not good because, I mean, they essentially turn him into a computer. Like, he literally has, like, the Terminator. He's literally the Terminator. He's literally assessing situations through his eyes, and you can clearly see a computer screen in his eyes. He's like, enemy hostile. The main villain of this movie, played by Thomas Kretschmann, whose name I don't even remember. What, I think it was Dr. Kane. Yes, Dr. Kane, Thomas Kretschmann in this movie. See, that's another thing. I don't remember anybody's names in this movie except for the characters, if you want to call them that are from the video game, and Mila Jovovich's character, Alice. But yeah, he activates Nemesis, and Nemesis, he just pops in just to wreak havoc half the time. And when that happens, I'm having a lot of fun watching that. And when Mila Jovovich finally gets the opportunity to fight Nemesis towards the end of the film, it's actually, despite being poorly edited, a fun fight. But there are so many stupid things in this movie. Like, why does Alice all of a sudden have superhuman strength? Why, at the end, which is literally the worst part of this movie by far, the ending legitimately sucks. I don't even like that in a guilty pleasure type of way. I don't like that ending. It's horrible because she gains the power of telekinesis and she kills a security guard with her telekinetic abilities. Fucking stupid. But that's the type of entertainment this movie offers up. It knows exactly what it's trying to be. It knows it's goofy. It knows it's silly. It knows it's stupid. And that's why this is the best of the Resident Evil movies, because if any of the other Resident Evil movies had these same characters, these same actors, same directors, Paul W.S. Anderson and Alexander Witt, and then Russell Mulcahy, who directed Resident Evil Extinction, the one after this, and then Paul W.S. Anderson came back. If they had this same tone, I probably would say that all 6 of these movies are guilty pleasures for me. But that's not the case. This one is the one that is definitely the most fun. It's because it's just all action, no plot. It doesn't care about telling a story. It doesn't care about developing characters. The characters from the game that are in this movie, Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira, are literally their video game counterparts by name and outfits only. Yeah, that outfit in this movie for Jill Valentine, that was made a big deal at the time of release because everybody was like, nobody would be wearing that in a zombie apocalypse. And I wholeheartedly agree. What I do actually like from an actual writing standpoint, not any of the characters themselves, because they are very Swiss cheese characters, but I am actually kind of impressed that Paul W.S. Anderson went the extra mile to have Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira, video game characters from the Resident Evil games, appear in this movie for an extended period of time, because it could have just been easy to just have Jill Valentine's first scene in this movie just be that scene where she walks into her old police precinct and say, okay, everybody needs to evacuate, and shoot a couple zombies and then shoot the guy in the handcuffs and then leave and be out of the movie for good. But no, she actually plays an integral role in the plot. She's a supporting character in the movie. So isn't Carlos Oliveira. I was really struck by that on this rewatch. I actually totally forgot about that. I really only thought that they were in only flashes of the movie or only like a scene here and there. They're in most of the entire movie. There's a good chunk of Resident Evil Apocalypse where Alice is completely absent, and it feels like Jill is the main character, which kind of sucks because Jill isn't fleshed out all that much. As I've already stated, nobody is. So when you're following Jill for a good 20 minutes of the movie in this church where she's hanging out with her old cop buddy and this guy that looks like the Walmart version of Alan Tudyk, one of my favorite sequences in the entire movie, honestly. I'll talk about that in a minute. I find it very hard to care about Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira in this movie because the only thing you find out about Jill Valentine is that she's a disgraced former cop. That's all she's got to her. Carlos Oliveira literally has nothing. The only reason you care about them is because they are the characters from the video game. If those weren't characters from the video game, there's no way you would care about them. Like, I don't care about the character of Terry in this movie. She's literally a nothing character. She's just there to be fodder. She's there to get bitten by a zombie, turned into a zombie, and then killed by one of the supporting cast members of this movie. That's really what the point of existence is in a movie like this. But there's no denying that Resident Evil Apocalypse, for me, is a massive guilty pleasure. Like, it has to be up there as a movie that I could just turn on and just relax, man. Just not think about anything for an hour and a half. It's one of those movies where I can acknowledge how dumb and bad it actually is, but it's like Lara Croft Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. I really don't care. I can just sit back and enjoy myself. And that's exactly what this movie does. And there are some scenes that stick out for me, like the church sequence, still poorly edited, but at least when it's going down, it's fun. I mean, when Alice comes in riding that motorcycle and she uses the motorcycle to kill a licker. Yeah, that shit was rad. I would say the church scene, the graveyard scene, and the first fight with Nemesis are probably my favorite parts of the movie. Those are actually well constructed as to how they build up to those, not in terms of the editing, because again, the editing needs editing, but in those moments, that's where I can kind of reel it back. I can just kind of ignore the stupid stuff like how the hell Jared Harris's character has access to things he shouldn't have access to. I get that he hacked the CCTV security cameras throughout Raccoon City, but how does he have that much access to them if he hacks them? When I'm watching this, though, I can stop thinking about the dumb, stupid plot points like that and just kind of accept it for what it is. Like knowing that the movie knows that we should know that that's stupid. And that's how I feel with Resident Evil Apocalypse, which is why I put it so far above the first Resident Evil for me. This just has that tone. I'm just here to watch people kill zombies with these movies because they're not going to follow the story of the game at all. So might as well just have something else that resembles at least a zombie movie. This one does compared to the first one, which I think is really boring in comparison. So if we're taking the guilty pleasure elements out of this movie, this is a really atrocious movie. And I would realistically give this movie a D minus or a D, but it is a massive guilty pleasure of mine. It's popcorn entertainment. It's meant to be goofy. It's meant to be silly. The movie knows it, and it rolls with that, and I can roll with that, and just ignore all the stupid contrivances and stupidity of one of the worst screenplays of all time. Anytime I watch this movie, I could just pop this in any day of the week and just kill 90 minutes knowing that 10-year-old me would love something like this. So because it is a guilty pleasure, I'm going to give Resident Evil Apocalypse a B minus. So guys, thank you for continuing to watch the 2024 Halloween Spooktacular. I'm having a lot of fun. I got so many more videos planned. Hopefully I can get to all of them this year. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.